Have you ever found yourself in a situation, maybe at work, maybe a negotiation, where things just feel tricky, like the rules keep changing?
Oh, absolutely. That sense of needing to adapt your approach based on the ground you're on is really central to strategy.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today on the deep dive. We try to unpack complex ideas from key sources to, help make sense of them.
Today we're digging into a classic, Chapter 11 of Sun Tzu's Art of War, specifically his concept of the 9 situations.
Right. The art of war, it's ancient 5th century BC, I think, but people still talk about its strategic wisdom all the time.
They really do. It's got this enduring quality. Chao Tao, way back in Han Dynasty, called it the profoundest work on war. So, yeah, it's stuck around for a reason.
And our mission today, for everyone listening, is to break down these 9 situations. The idea is that understanding these different strategic environments might actually give you a useful framework.
Exactly. A way to analyze uh, the challenges you face, whether it's landing a deal, managing a project, or even, well, trickier personal stuff.
Yeah.
It often boils down to knowing the terrain.
So Sun Tzu basically says you need different strategies for different battlegrounds or situations. It's not one size fits all.
Precisely. What works perfectly in one scenario could be, frankly, disastrous in another. Adaptation is key.
Okay, so lay it out for us. What are these 9 situations, these 9 types of ground?
All right, Sun Tzu lists them as dispersive ground, facile ground, contentious ground,
Okay.
open ground, ground of intersecting highways, serious ground, difficult ground, hemmed-in ground, and finally, desperate ground.
Wow, okay. Non-distinct types. Let's start at the beginning. Dispersive ground. What's that about?
So dispersive ground is basically fighting on your home turf, where your soldiers or your team members, let's say, are close to home, close to their families.
Okay. So they might be easily distracted thinking about going home.
Exactly. Their loyalty might be divided, their focus might waver. Sun Tzu notes they're anxious to see their families. So the natural tendency is to, well, disperse.
Makes sense. So what's the advice then? If you're on dispersive ground.
His advice is pretty stark. Fight not.
Fight not, don't engage.
Right. Because the risk of your own forces just sort of melting away or losing focus is too high. It's not the time for a decisive confrontation.
Interesting. How does fight not translate today? Like in managing a team, you can't just not manage them.
Well, no, but think about maybe a remote team spread across different locations. Everyone's in their own home territory. If you try to impose really strict top-down control, sort of fighting them, you might just get pushback or disengagement.
Okay. So fight not might mean avoiding direct confrontation or overly rigid control. Focus more on like alignment, shared goals.
Exactly. Recognize those centrifugal forces, the pull towards individual priorities, and don't just meet it head-on with force. Find other ways to create unity.
Got it. Okay, situation number 2. Facile ground. What's facile mean here? Easy.
Yeah, essentially. Facile ground is when you've just entered enemy territory, only gone a short distance in, and crucially, retreat is still really easy.
So you've made a bit of progress, seems low risk. What's the catch?
The catch is that very ease of retreat. It creates a temptation to pull back too soon, maybe at the first sign of trouble. So Sun Tzu's advice is, halt not.
Don't stop, keep pushing.
Yes. Keep the momentum going. Don't let that easy escape route become a psychological crutch. Press your advantage before the opponent really digs in. He even mentions burning boats and bridges.
Whoa, really? To remove the temptation to retreat?
Exactly. It's about total commitment to moving forward once you've started. Think about entering a new market, maybe. The first sales might come easy.
Right, low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. But if you just stop there, get complacent, you lose that initial momentum. Competitors will show up. You got to keep pushing, building, consolidating. Don't halt.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Next up, contentious ground. Sounds important.
Extremely. Contentious ground is basically a location or position that offers a major strategic advantage to whoever holds it. Think like high ground or a key intersection.
So this is the place you absolutely must have.
Pretty much. It's vital. But interestingly, Sun Tzu says, attack not.
Wait, attack not. If it's so important, shouldn't you grab it immediately?
Well, his point is more subtle. The priority isn't necessarily launching an immediate, potentially costly attack. It's about occupying the advantageous position first. Secure it before the enemy does.
So positioning is more important than immediate fighting. Beat them to the punch.
Exactly. Think about in business, maybe rushing to secure a key patent or locking down an exclusive distribution deal. It's not about attacking your rivals directly, but about securing that critical resource or position first.
Like controlling the high ground.
Precisely. The source mentions a neck of a pass, a choke point,
Yeah.
and there's that anecdote about Lu Kuan.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
He was advised to seize a mountain pass, a defile, specifically to cut off the enemy's water supply. It wasn't about fighting there initially. It was about controlling that vital point to gain leverage. Strategic positioning.
Control the key point, control the situation. Got it. Okay, number 4, open ground.
Open ground. This is pretty much what it sounds like, wide open space where both sides can move around freely. No major obstacles, no choke points dictating movement.
So lots of room to maneuver. What's the main challenge there?
The big danger on open ground is letting your enemy concentrate their forces. Because it's open, they could mass their strength effectively against a portion of yours if you let them.
So you need to stop them from ganging up.
Essentially, yes.
Oh.
The advice is to keep them dispersed, prevent them from consolidating. You need to be agile, maybe keep your own forces somewhat spread out but connected, disrupting their attempts to form a powerful block.
Like in a big dynamic market, you don't want one competitor to suddenly corner a huge segment.
Right. You might want to compete across several fronts, keep things fluid, make it hard for any one opponent to achieve overwhelming local superiority, prevent concentration.
Okay. Next is ground of intersecting highways. Sounds like a crossroads.
Exactly. It's a strategic hub, ground where multiple states border each other or key routes converge. This means it's vital for controlling communications, supply lines, and crucially, for making connections.
Connections, so alliances.
Bingo. Sun Tzu's advice here is crystal clear. Form alliances. On this type of ground, you're naturally connected to others. Leveraging those connections through strategic partnerships is the key to success.
That feels incredibly modern, like supply chains, tech ecosystems.
Absolutely. So many industries today operate on this kind of intersecting highways ground. Success often depends less on isolated strength and more on building the right partnerships, the right ecosystem. You need allies.
Makes total sense. Okay, we're moving into some tougher sounding ones. Serious ground. What makes it serious?
Serious ground is when you've gone deep into enemy territory. You've left your own borders far behind, passed through hostile cities, and now you're deep inside their space, often with fortified places still ahead.
So you're heavily committed, far from home, long supply lines. Sounds risky.
Very risky. And that's why the key advice is to plunder.
Plunder. Like raid the countryside.
Well, yes, in the original context. The point is, when you're that deep in, you can't rely solely on your stretched supply lines. You need to live off the land, secure resources locally to sustain your army, your operation. The source specifically mentions the need for provisions when far from home.
Okay, so in modern terms, maybe a huge long-term project in unfamiliar territory. You need to build local capacity, find local resources, not just rely on headquarters far away.
Exactly. It's about becoming self-sufficient to a degree, embedding yourself and securing what you need locally to keep the momentum going. Resourcefulness is critical on serious ground.
Right. Next, difficult ground. I'm guessing mountains, swamps.
Precisely. Mountains, forests, marshes, steep ravines, anywhere that's just plain hard to move through. Progress is slow, laborious, and you're vulnerable.
So what do you do when the terrain itself is the enemy?
Sun Tzu says press on along the causeway, or keep moving forward on the main path or road.
Don't try fancy shortcuts through the swamp.
Probably not. The idea is perseverance. It's going to be tough, but deviating from the known, albeit difficult, path might lead you into even worse trouble, getting lost, ambushed, bogged down. Stick to the route and push through.
That feels relevant to hitting major roadblocks in any project. Sometimes you just have to grind through the difficult part, right?
Exactly. Identify the viable path, even if it's hard, and keep going. Don't get discouraged or diverted easily.
Okay, 2 left. Hemmed in ground. Sounds like being trapped.
That's the essence of it. It's terrain where the entry is narrow, the exit is tortuous, and a small enemy force could potentially block you in. Retreat is difficult or impossible. You're cornered.
Not a good spot. What's the play when you're hemmed in?
This is where Sun Tzu says you must resort to stratagem.
Stratagem. So, clever tricks. Deception.
Yes. Conventional tactics likely won't work if you're trapped. You need ingenuity, unconventional thinking, perhaps psychological warfare, misdirection, anything to create an opening or outwit the opponent who has you pinned.
Like a business facing total disruption, you can't just keep doing the same thing. You need a clever pivot, something unexpected.
Precisely. When your standard options are gone, you have to rely on cleverness and creativity to find a way out.
Okay, finally, Desperate ground. This sounds like the end of the line.
It is. Desperate ground is where you literally cannot survive unless you fight, and fight immediately. There is no escape, no alternative. Delay means destruction.
So if you find yourself there, what's the advice?
It's the simplest, most primal advice. Yes. Because in this situation, according to Sun Tzu, something remarkable happens. Soldiers placed on desperate ground lose their sense of fear. Knowing there's no retreat, they tap into a kind of primal courage and will fight with extraordinary ferocity. Unity and sheer determination become your greatest weapon.
It's the backs against the wall moment, all or nothing.
Exactly. When survival's the only goal, it focuses the mind and unleashes unexpected strength. You fight because you must.
Wow. Okay, so those are the 9 situations: dispersive, facile, contentious, open, intersecting highways, serious, difficult, hemmed in, and desperate, each needing a different approach.
That's the core message. And underlying all of them are some key principles, like always trying to know what the enemy is up to, adapting your plans.
Right, and that emphasis on speed, rapidity, is the essence of war, seizing the moment.
Absolutely. And creating unity, especially in tough spots like desperate ground, exploiting weaknesses, attacking when they're unprepared. It all ties back to assessing the specific situation and acting decisively and appropriately. It's about flexibility, not rigid rules.
It really drives home that strategy isn't just about your own plan, but how your plan interacts with the specific environment, the ground you're operating on.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And speaking of different aspects of strategy, while Chapter 11 is all about the ground, Chapter 12 shifts focus quite dramatically.
Oh, little preview for next time. What's Chapter 12 about?
Chapter 12 is titled The Attack by Fire.
Attack by fire. Okay, that sounds intense.
It is. Sun Tzu discusses 5 ways to attack using fire, the importance of things like the weather, the wind direction, the right timing, and generally how to use fire as a powerful strategic tool, both physically and psychologically.
Fascinating. Moving from terrain to tactics. And pretty powerful tactic at that. Definitely something to look forward to.
Yeah, it adds another whole dimension to his strategic thinking.
Well, this has been incredibly useful, really breaking down Chapter 11 like this. It just highlights how critical it is to understand the context you're in before you act. Different ground demands, different moves.
That really is the key takeaway. Recognize the landscape, understand its unique challenges and opportunities, and then tailor your strategy.
So a final thought for everyone listening. Think about a challenge you're facing right now. Which of Sun Tzu's 9 situations feels most like the ground you're on? And is your current approach the right one for that specific situation?
It's a great exercise. We definitely encourage you to mull that over, maybe even check out Chapter 11 for yourself. And please do join us next time for our deep dive into Chapter 12 and the strategic implications of the attack by fire.